morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Doing great.
Good, good morning. It's October 10th. I'm Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Cambosa. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with
Andrew Plank of the Vibe Real Estate Group and Royal LePage.
and
General mortgage broker with DLC Water Mortgage Group.
Yeah,
hello. How has your week been, you guys?
really busy for me. Yeah, I've been,
Awesome.
Good.
I mean, just super busy.
Productive?
Yeah, very productive. Don't know, but I got some extra boost of energy and I've just been really focused on work and diving in. And yeah, so a lot of late nights, but also, got a few listings coming up soon and buyers are pretty active. So keeping me hopping.
Good. We'll get to new listings coming up at the end. So why don't we hop right into this because we actually have a lot to cover. Today we're going to be discussing what's going on with the real estate parties who are vying for election coming up in a couple weeks. So each of us has gone through the platforms in different ways. So even the strategy in which we did it was interesting. And today we'll talk about what we each have read, and we're not going to offer you an opinion about what you should do, but we're going to just tell you what's going on. Right, you guys?
Yeah, in regards to housing, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but first, if you like our show, we do want your input in what we cover. We'd love to hear from you what's interesting, what's not. We also love your feedback. And please also don't forget to subscribe and comment. We do need 100 people on each of the pages that we're broadcasting this in order to get it spread out. And don't forget also to share it to your friends if you have a topic that's of interest. All right, the last 7 days. Go, Andrew.
Yeah, so what have we got here? The last 7 days, today's October 10th, 275 new properties went on market, 169 properties pending, 156 price decreases, 4 price increases, 10 back on market, 83 properties transacted, and 77 expired, 5 withdrawn. So again, that pending number is now it's been above 50%. Well, it's above 50% of the new listings. So that's pretty big number when you look at the green line, purple line here at the top.
We're at 62%.
62%. So that's really showing a bit of an increase. Well, quite an increase in activity. But at the same time, that number is almost the same. The line below, the sort of greenish line. What color green would you call that? It's not a nice
lime.
green. Yeah, it's kind of lime green. Not any lime that I would eat. But yeah, so those lines are about the same, and just a little under. So we're seeing still a lot of price decreases, telling us that it's really still very price sensitive out there. But the buyers are really are active.
Yeah, I think we've kind of gotten to the point in the market, for you and me, almost freaking 20 years in the industry now, 19 and a half. We know what what?
That's a lot of experience.
That's a
I
lot
think
of
you've gotten a year ahead of us, Jane. We got licensed in 06, so we're 18 and a half.
Shoot.
But,
18 and a half.
are you going to be saying we're almost 20 years for the next year and a half now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
A little ageism going on, but in a good way. I was going to say that we're used to the rhythm of real estate, and I think that you begin to realize that a lot of people want to get sold before Christmas, and so now we're like 6 weeks, 8 weeks away from closings, right? And
You're
so
right. Like right now is kind of an interesting time where sellers are feeling the coming of winter and really feeling like, okay, if I'm not sold now, I have to wait till spring, and I don't know if I want to do that. So they're going to be tightening their belts or sharpening their pencils, whereas buyers are also feeling like, well, interest rates are coming down, probably values will be coming up in the future. Let's get moving now and try to beat the rush in the spring.
Yeah. Plus, we only know what the market's doing now. We can't predict what's going to happen. As we all know, in March of 2020, the world changed in one day.
Yeah.
Okay, month-end statistics. So we're at 140 net unconditional sales so far for October as of Monday, compared to 407 in October of 2023. And so I
And that was for
predict
the full month of October 2023. So
yeah. And September 2024 was good at 571. So that was up over September 2023. So seasonally, you can see we're going down so far in 2023 from 493 to 407, exactly what we were talking about. And at 140, maybe we have a chance of reaching what we did in October 2023. We'll see. New listings were at 271 so far, and that's compared to 1,100 for the month of October in 2023. And active listings were at 3,239, and that's compared to 2,756 last year. And I remember thinking last year, that was a lot in October.
Mhm.
It's a lot now.
It's
But it's gone down.
it's a high inventory. Yeah.
Yeah. So far, we're down from September 2024. So we're down by about 100 and
There's
140.
I'm not sure how many realtors we now have in the real estate board, the local real estate board, but I mean, it's run from like 1,200 to 1,600 or more. Let's say it's around, I think it's in the higher end right now. So let's say there's around 1,600 agents. And there was a time when we had less than 1,600 listings, and there was less than one listing per agent on average across the real estate board. Now it's two. I mean, that's just sort of an interesting metric to kind of look at and sort of see how that plays into our own busyness. If there were only 500 realtors in Victoria, this would be a huge amount of inventory. Whereas if, more realtors, anyway, just an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, we should also look at it in terms of population too, like what's available to people. So
That's
right
one
now
thing
I was going to say, like, a lot of people have just finished purchasing rentals. There's a lot I'm noticing that are available online.
of rentals
And
available online.
yeah, sorry, rentals.
Yeah.
And the rentals are coming down in price. So that says
If
to
anyone
me,
needs a rental with good timing, but our tenant has just given notice, so we are actually looking for it. I'll put a plug in at the end of the show.
okay, is it a 1 or a 2 bedroom?
It's a 2-bed, 2-bath, and it's in the Humboldt Valley, overlooking a beautiful little interior garden space. It's at the City Place building, steel and concrete condo, second floor, south facing.
Okay.
Yeah, what you said about populations, that's one thing I find when we read all these things and people talk about, we have so many listings, and back in 1970 it was this or whatever. They don't actually take into account the difference in the populations now. And that is a really true missing factor in what people do look at.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Jen, what's going on with the board? Or sorry,
Well,
board,
with
real estate, finance.
with financial stuff. Yeah. Well, this morning actually we just got the annual inflation number out of the US, and that dropped to 2.4%. However, their core inflation went up to 3.3% from 3.2. So that's over my head. I don't understand how the total inflation can go down to 2.4 from 2.5, but the core inflation went up by 0.1%. But anyways, that's the numbers today, and the effect of those numbers is on our bond market,
Right.
which affects the 5-year fixed rates. So that's what I'm watching. And right now,
You know,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
well, given that one went down and one went up,
Yeah.
which are the bond markets more likely to follow, the core or the other?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, there-
This morning, the U.S. 10-year Treasury went up by 0.025, and the Canadian 5-year bond yield was down by 0.03. So it
I think-
actually positively affected our bond market.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's hot off the press.
Okay. Thank you.
How do bond yields affect interest rates? So as bond prices go up, interest rates go down.
Yes.
So we can expect, so what did you say, the bond?
The bond yield is currently 3.04. So hopefully that's up. So hopefully we will see a decrease in the 5-year fixed rates.
Okay.
A slight decrease, because all of a sudden there was panic based on the labor markets news that came out from the US last week, which then bumped up our bond yields, and everybody was panicking and changing their 5-year fixed rates. So that was really created a bit of a panic, but now, okay, well, now we're seeing them come down a little bit. So we'll see.
So that goes back to what Jane was saying earlier about how, we can never really predict the future, but also, we've been doing this many years. And one of the things that we've really seen, and Jen, you could probably speak to this too, in the mortgage industry is, trying to watch the little micro movements and predict what the macro is going to be is really hard. Like when you're panicking over all these little movements, like when something happens, take a breath and just, take a few breaths and just wait and say, okay, well, let's not make a panic decision just yet. Let's see where this is going.
Yes, do what's right for your family. And I mean, if you're going to sit and kind of wait for that perfect time, you will never find it, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Because by the time rates do come down, house prices normally go up. Yep. So really, right. I feel like it always kind of works out in the wash.
Well, I would honestly rather buy at the time that house prices are low and interest rates are high if I'm paying the same amount per month. Because interest rates at some point are going to come down and your mortgage is already low. Yeah. But you do the other way around, you're just in a position of future pain when interest rates eventually go up.
If you're on a variable.
Yes, true.
If you're on a variable, and that's the other factor.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You don't want to buy when everyone else is buying. You want to buy when there's a lot of availability, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you're going to pay more with price than you are with interest over time.
Yes.
And on top of all of the, interest rates affecting the market, supply and demand affects the market, housing policies affect the market. Let's dive into what the big platforms are doing in BC around housing and see what we can parse out of this.
What a great segue. Okay, so we have 3 parties. We have the Green Party of BC. We have the Conservative Party of British Columbia, which is now an amalgamation of the BC Liberals, which were the BC United Party, which didn't take off. And then we are we have a choice of the BC NDP. So these each have 3 different platforms that they're coming from in terms of real estate. And one thing that I noticed was some of them are just reactive. So the Conservative, there's a lot of when I went to each of their different platforms online, I was noticing that some of them are reactive and some of them are thoughtful and some of them are out to lunch. So I'll
I mean,
put the
we said
link.
we're not going to tell people how to vote in this, but are you going to tell people what you think is out to lunch? Are we, what can of worms are we opening up here?
Well, I think we can offer an opinion on,
Mhm.
I'm going to put the links for each of them up on in the chat here. I think what we can do is offer an opinion of what we think is this reasonable or not, right? So, like
Yeah.
for instance, anyway, okay, so we'll get up there, and I'm just putting these in the chat right now. Okay,
Yeah.
so what I did, I'll show you, and I present share screen. Is I went and I looked at each platform here. So there's the Green Party, Conservatives, and
Oh my.
NDPs. And then I looked at what the different sort of contexts that people had here on each of these. So what's the cost of what were they planning for buying a home? So the big thing that the Conservatives are looking at is it's called the Rustad rebate, which is beginning in 2026, giving money back to people so that they will have $1,500 $1,500 per month in rent. Mortgage interest and strata fees will be exempt in BC income tax. The exempt amount will increase by $500 a year until reaching $3,000. The rebate will be equivalent to BC's base tax bracket of 5.06% multiplied by eligible housing costs. I don't know if that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tax rebate, and it could be given anywhere. It doesn't have to just be on housing. I mean, that's they're applying it to housing, but I think anytime you give a tax rebate that is on expenses that almost everyone's going to have, um, it's probably kind of a wash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
18,000 a year though, if it's 1,500 a month.
Oh, no, I think it'll be a maximum of $3,000 a year.
Oh, well,
Because
why did they
it's
say 1,500 a month? Right.
you'd apply it against your taxes, right? So you'd be applying it against your income. So
Right.
you'd really only be saving that from that'd be coming against your taxable bringing down your taxable income. So you're going to be paying less taxes, but not by that amount of money. That's the problem I have with all of these tax rebates. It's like you've got to do all this mental calculus and acrobatics to try to figure out what does this actually mean. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have as much. The big numbers don't add up to as much as most people will find.
Yes, I'd like to see the fine print on that.
Yeah.
How many exemptions are there to getting that 1,500 a month, which is actually only maximum of 3,000. It's not 1,500 a month. Or you don't want to, right? But it's advertised as 1,500 a month.
You know, if you don't like, I read through the various platforms, and I just want to like speak. We're talking about the Conservatives right now. The two things that I read from what the Conservatives are planning for housing, which I think they've got a number of different things, but I want to talk about the two main ones. One was they want to bring back something like the MURBs from the 70s, multi-unit rental buildings.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting play. And so that was one. And then the other was, you know, they don't disagree with the current NDP government on these transit zones, which are higher density transit zones, where near high density bus stops, they want to increase housing. So they want to add to that and just refine it a little bit. And I actually fully agree with them on this. They want to include small business and like some stores and small business within those transit communities. I don't understand why you would want to have a high population near bus stops without actual services available to you within that community as well. And that's one thing I thought, okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting move. And I think that if the NDP government weren't to do that Mhm.
Like in Toronto, so they do the same thing. Each stop has, you have your grocery store and your, like your corner grocery store and all of that, and you have apartment buildings, and the zoning is different around the subway stops. And
Mhm.
I think that's what they're planning, but I don't know how, for instance, if you look at Saanich, let's just look at Victoria. So if you look at
Mhm.
Saanich, what's going to happen is, um, well, what is happening is they have these corridors that they're planning. So there's Shelburne, and then now it looks like it's going to be across on Feltham and all of that. So, you know, do they then take housing there and rezone on the corner lot that somebody can have a grocery store? That's what I'm wondering. And you know, the I agree with this, but I think it's for planning. It should be for planning. I don't know if you can change things in a current neighborhood. That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering how realistic it is.
To change things in a current neighborhood where you mean where those bus stops are? I think that's the whole idea of having, a vision that is longer term and saying, okay, this is how it's currently been for housing, but because it's been this way and because of how the city is going to develop, let's get ahead of that and open up to a vision of the city and the development that allows for this as opposed to keeping things. I mean, I'm all for going up as opposed to out. The more we can create density, but also strong community, which means you do need to have all of your amenities within a walking distance if you're going to make a strong community. Your schooling, your parks, your shopping. But I mean, another thing on the conservative platform, while we're on the conservative platform, is they want to actually they want to build entirely new cities in BC. They want to take
I know.
from public lands and just I guess stamp some cities into the province. And uh, I don't know that that's a solution because it's hard to build a community from scratch. And again, I think I'd rather see us building stronger communities of what we already have than trying to expand out and sprawl.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny that, well, so one of the things that the conservatives has recommended that I'm not seeing elsewhere is the changing the zoning approval process. The NDP have gone through with that currently, but
Mm,
the conservatives are wanting to cut the red tape and make sure the approval process is really short, which I agree with in principle. However,
yeah,
when I look at what happened in Langford with that apartment building where they didn't
yeah,
have any oversight and now nobody
yes.
can live there.
Yeah, so the conservatives here are saying, and by the way, we're not trying to shit on the conservatives here. We're just talking about them. We'll talk about the others as well, what we like and don't like. Um, but the conservatives are also saying, we want to step out of the way of the experts. And if an expert is sort of saying, like, we're going to give the experts full free reign, and if the engine and we're going to step out of the way of really questioning the approval process around what engineers are advising and so on and so forth. And that's exactly, Gene's example is exactly right, that we have a building that was built and millions of dollars spent and people can't even move into it. And it's because of some engineers. And, people don't like realtors let's just put this way. If you were to give the keys to the kingdom to any one particular group, there's going to be bad apples within it. You can't just say because you're an engineer or a lawyer or a realtor or a politician or a doctor,
Yes,
that we're just going to trust you because
right.
you're a professional.
But one thing that they are saying though that the conservatives are saying is they want to take away some of the front loading costs. So when somebody is looking at developing a property, they have these costs, DCC, development cost charges, that are upfront, which are very prohibitive. And so I think that's a good idea. I think to lower the barrier to getting the developments going, to encourage people,
Mhm.
because right now we're at a standstill in development, I believe.
Right.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. Okay,
Let's move on because I just realized we started late. It's 10 a.m. and I've actually got some things I need to get to and be, so I can't be doing a really long show today. I'm sorry, guys.
okay. Well, one thing I
Want to
just
wrap
wanted
up
to
on conservative? Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about cost of buying a home. The NDP are looking at reducing the upfront costs of buying a home. So buyers pay only 60% of their unit's price initially. The remaining 40% is due when they sell. That's interesting. I don't know if that's 40% of the total cost or what. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it's a little unclear yet, but I believe they're cooperating with developers and First Nations and public lands to help bring down some of the costs, or they will take on some of those costs themselves, and then be a co-owner with you in that home and some of that interest in that home. And that's similar to a program the federal government had, right, Jen? Where
Yes.
and I did you have anyone take you up on that federal program? Do you know anyone who actually used it?
I do. I have one client, and I have to admit, I tried to turn her away from it because here we are, her mortgage is up for renewal and she wants to pay that out, and the process to do that is not easy. So you have to get there's all these extra costs at the end in order to try and get it off.
So no free lunch there.
Mm-hmm. It's benefit to the government.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk flipping home tax. So NDP, they say there should be a sliding scale with the highest rate imposed on properties sold within a year, and then reducing over a number of years. And the NDP are saying homes are for people, not for artificially inflated profits. They're going to clamp down on home flipping. Personally, I'm a fan of home flipping because I think that it's a great way of improving our housing stock. And you're asking a homeowner to take it on. What do you think, you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Jen, go ahead.
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, I feel it's if someone's going to put in the work to improve a property and then make a profit, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, and that's the point there, isn't it? You know, there's a lot of properties out there that would not get improved if it weren't for people flipping them. And there are many buyers out there. Jean and I have worked with them over the years. They will not buy a home. They don't want to live through a renovation. They can't afford a renovation. If they can't afford it, they don't want to live through it. So there's an argument and there's a space for people who can buy an old home, fix it up, and sell it to someone else who pays them a bit of profit. But these people have done their own work, and they probably, if you were to just have someone buy that home and go out to find their own trades to do that work, it's going to cost them sometimes more than the profit that this person who sometimes it's just a young couple who are trying to get equity in and into the housing market themselves, and it's their way of getting a start. I've seen so many people get a start at their lives and their financial freedom by saying, okay, I'm going to buy a home that I wouldn't want to live in with my partner. We're going to live in it and we're going to slog through it, and we're going to be really unhappy for a while. We're going to do all the work. Yeah, Jane's a great
That's
example.
how I got in. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is an avenue for people to build themselves up in the world and to improve housing stock. So I don't like it.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I understand the intention, but I also think that there's a lot of this flipping tax thing means that then if you do buy a home and then you suddenly find that you need to get a divorce, or there's a change in your financial situation, you need to sell again. Now you've got to prove that you're not flipping.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's really fair for someone going through dire times.
What they're trying to do is prevent the cost of housing increasing exponentially in a short period of time.
I just don't think that's part of it, though.
Yeah.
But there's
Oh.
so many people. Like, right? People need a place to live.
Mhm. Right. So let's assume that, so let's play this out. There's a whole bunch of old homes that nobody's buying because nobody wants to live in them. So, so with the housing and the anti-flipping tax, nobody's doing anything about that. Now you got these homes that people are stuck in, they can't sell, or they're empty because someone's died, and they've died and they had 6 cats and they didn't take care of it for 25 years, and the place just really, and somebody's going to come along and just knock that house down now. Maybe it should be knocked down, but then you're going to have a brand new big home that's going to be unaffordable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just
Okay,
go
so what
for
else
one.
can you say about the NDP platform, or do we want to?
Let's do a policy. So, and then we could talk about each one. So building new homes. So the Conservatives want to do a hold on a second, a $1 billion year fund that will be available to municipalities who are taking action to get homes built. Those funds will be available to municipality whose zoning allows for viable small-scale multi-unit housing on at least 2/3 of residential land. And the NDP say they want to do pre-built homes, basically where you can get a home in as little as 12 weeks. So I don't think that takes into account that you have to get all the services that take more than 12 weeks to get a home. But I get it. So to me, the Conservative parties looking at viable small scale multi-unit housing on at least 2/3 of residential land. So that is increasing, that's densification. That's to me a lot of administration. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Sorry, which one was this? I was just looking at a different housing platform.
Building new homes. So the Conservatives want a $1 billion per year fund. I don't think we can afford that. They'll be available to municipalities who are taking actions to get homes built. And the NDP want to do kind of like factory built homes where it's kind of like Lego.
Yeah.
And then where people can build on land they already own.
Continue, like build extra housing on land they already own.
Yeah, okay, so let me just give an example. I have a client who lives in Saanich who wanted to put in a secondary suite, who met all the requirements. Saanich made them go through all this paperwork, and in the end, after spending thousands of dollars, literally thousands of dollars, they were told they couldn't go ahead because it had to do with how they were going to be dealing with their sewage and also the runoff from the building. And there was no sewer close to the property. I guess like it wasn't in the backyard or whatever. So they would have had to pump it up. And so Saanich said no.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's a whole other side point. But all of this housing policy still has to work with infrastructure, and we do not have the infrastructure to add all of this new housing without doing a lot of work to improve our cities' infrastructure, and especially our drainage, sewage, water systems. So that's interesting.
There's such a disconnect with the policymakers and the actual like ground floor. Okay, here's how we're going to make this work.
This is how it actually is going to work. If you do this, this is the actual real world consequences. Kind of like the getting rid of the short-term rentals is, that sounds great on paper. Let's get rid of short-term rentals, and then we've got more extra housing for people to rent and space for them. But now we are losing out on maybe some tourism, and we are losing out on and the cost of hotels have gone up a lot, and people are having a hard time finding their housing needs in that way. So everything has a consequence. I'm going to put something into the chat here because I've mentioned before Leo from House Hunt Victoria. He does a really good review of these things too, and he's got a review of the housing platforms that he put out recently. And so he actually only talks about the Conservatives and NDP. So unfortunately, he doesn't. He just wanted to talk about what he felt were the two viable, actual potential candidates for winning this season. That's his. I'm just saying that's his opinion, or whatever. But he talks about that both the NDP and Conservatives do recognize there's a shortage in housing. The government, the provincial government, the Conservatives want to clear up approval times for rezoning applications and
Yep.
open that up a lot. They're both moving away from site to site rezoning and going into more blanket zoning.
OCP and matching zoning to OCPs. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a whole list, and I'm not going to go into it, but I'm going to share it because I think it's a good synopsis of everything there as well.
One thing the Conservatives want to do, which I totally disagree with, is take away the step code, which has to deal with efficiency of housing and energy efficiency of housing, which I think is a great idea because we live in numerous different climates. And I've seen people in the US who haven't followed energy efficiency practices that we do in colder climates. And people in Texas have burst pipes and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
there needs to be a standard there, and it definitely, I think it's a good thing, the net zero mandate.
There's a balancing act there, step code for green energy and so forth, and then also quality of build. A recent newsletter that I put out last month's newsletter, month before this, I talked about the fact that if you built a house in the 50s, you couldn't build a house like that today. And number one, you couldn't get the timber, but assuming you could, you would have to go to such a much higher degree to meet building codes today, and bring in so many more specialized trades, and use so many more high-tech materials that housing today has become way, way, way more expensive to build. You can't just go out. I like to think about this as if you were a homesteader coming into Canada, and you go out and you chop down the trees and you make yourself a log cabin. You can do that one person by hand and have yourself a home. It's not a great home. It's drafty, it's cold. It's not gonna, but
Yep.
you can't do that today. Not one person can make a home. It requires truly a community, and in fact the world where all the materials are coming from, and to meet code to make this happen. So we can't build affordable homes anymore. We just simply can't if we want to be also sustainable.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And when you go into an older home and you see, like, there are certain eras of homes that have different issues and different
Yeah.
benefits. Like, you go into a home built in the 30s and 40s, and they have the really thick timber and the copper piping and all of that stuff. And then now you see, it's pieces of wood kind of glued together, tri-lam and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a much different type of house. Agreed. Yeah.
Oriented strand board, which is essentially sort of confetti all put together, wood confetti all put together and glued.
Yeah.
And it gets wet and it just expands. And
Yeah, even with the trim on housing, right? MDMF board versus wood and all of that. One thing I just want to focus on before we end the show is home shelters for people, halfway homes sort of thing. So the Conservatives, they want to, they don't want to force what they call low barrier housing or shelter on a community. And so they're not encouraging that sort of thing. I think we're part of a community. Everybody's part of our community. We can't sort of like move people away. I'm not sure what they're getting at here, but what they're saying is essentially they wouldn't allow halfway homes in established neighborhoods. And the NDP are looking at a homeless encampment action response. So that's a temporary housing program. I guess it's HEART, HEART, to help to move communities to help people get inside. Together, we can make new facilities, have the location, staff, and standards to deliver safe and successful outcomes for the whole community. That's a really great idea. I want to see the plan behind that.
Mhm.
Right. Anyway.
Right. So I'm going to read directly from Leo's thing here on social, affordable, subsidized housing. Jane was just talking about. The NDP have a number of ways or expanded programs in this area, including partnering with First Nations developers to finance 40% of the cost, up to 25,000 new homes for first-time buyers. Increase the rental protection fund to buy older rentals and move them to nonprofit ownership, and cut red tape and allow for more height and bonus density for non-market housing. Whereas, so the Conservatives don't specifically include building subsidized housing in their platform. They do have related promises. This goes to what you were just mentioning. They want to stop low barrier housing facilities without local community support. You'd mentioned that they were just saying it would be not in communities, but he's saying without community support. I haven't dove into that, but maybe we can. And then they also want to conduct a forensic audit on BC housing. So those are the two platforms kind of approach to the social and affordable and subsidized housing. As per
So I'm on the board for Habitat for Humanity, and let me just tell you, like, we're trying to get bills going, and there's a lot of red tape happening. There is some people, NIMBY people, not in my backyard type people as well, and it's hard for everybody. Everybody looks at what's in it for me. That's the issue here, is that we really want to house people, provide them with a safe place to live, and we get pushback from some people depending on the neighborhood. Plus, if you're going to rezone different areas without and you're going to impact people in their community, you're going to change things. Again, if you're imposing it, if it's not happening naturally, and you're imposing it, that's where you're going to get pushback, because it's coming from above, not from within. You know what I mean? Anyway,
I think every community can and should be inclusive and afford to help others up in this world. You know, if you're in a position of privilege and you've got someone who is needing some help and you can provide that, that's a wonderful thing to be able to do. At the same time, you don't want to be alone. There's a balancing act in all of this, and I think that it's not just about bringing people housing. It's about bringing people up in all ways so that they are capable of taking care of their own housing. Or, you know, we're lacking on skilled trades in BC. If we have, and so again, getting people capable of building more housing, being involved in their communities. It's not going to be the answer for people with mental health and substance abuse issues. There's a lot of people that are displaced that they just need something to be doing, and we don't have the skilled trades to build the homes that we need. Let's start working on programs that are beyond just thinking about putting a roof over someone's head, and think about how to help people, you know, pick up the axe and go and build themselves that home. Have the skills to do that more today. That's a really broad and simplified way to say it, so I don't get hate mail, but
well, the NDP are looking at bringing in more trades programs, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, 200%.
Yeah. I'm just going to change the topic slightly. One thing that I think the NDP are bringing in, which I think is a good idea, is allowing more pets. So, because
I've
go ahead.
Oh, I didn't see this. You mean pets in condos?
Yeah.
Changing
rental
the standard BC bylaws or what?
Will end the bias against pet owners in purpose-built rental buildings, which impacts young people, seniors, and people with disabilities. Bring down the rate of pet abandonments across BC as renters no longer have to make the difficult choice between the housing and the pet they love.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, Jen?
Well, not with the pet issue. I guess it's I'm giving my opinion a little bit here. Sort of in
Yes.
summary of the whole thing is that what we have right now, there's a lot of things that are not working. And I feel like we need a shakeup of some sort. And my one question is when the NDP, who are currently governing us, why haven't they put all of these amazing thoughts into play already? Or right, like why are they're currently regulating us, so why are these just thoughts, or to continue, I guess, to get us to vote for them? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You mean why
They've been
are they coming out with why are they
Like,
promising the rainbow
yeah,
now and when they haven't been
dangling
doing
the
so?
carrot. Yeah.
I know that the NDP has been really, I mean, David Eby comes from a housing portfolio and is very big on housing, and that's been his whole drive. And there's been a lot of changes. Not all of them sound very NDP-like, and some of them are highly NDP-ish. But I feel like they have been over-promising, and like they are doing a lot, and I don't think that we have the capacity to really keep up with it. I don't think BC can afford it because of the churn in the background of all of the things they're trying to put together. But yeah, I mean, that's the same argument you're hearing from the state, the US platforms too, with, any platform. Hey, you've been in power for so many years. What have you done with that time? And why are you now telling us all the wonderful things you're going to do that you probably won't do as well when you get elected?
Yes.
And that seems to be the way that politics operates. So
sure.
all we can do is, I guess, make the choice of the person or party that we feel will actually go in the direction that we would like. But anytime it's a huge, I think of it like a cruise ship or a tanker ship.
Oh.
And if you try to turn the wheel, you can turn the wheel and it takes like
yes.
2 hours before things start to happen.
Yes.
And then if you try to turn it back again, you'll continue turning the other way for some time until, it's really, really hard to get anything going in the right direction and actually make decisions. You have to be really clear and have a long-term vision of where you want to go, as opposed to doing all these little micro movements, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. Yeah. Guys, I gotta run.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Just a reminder, our show is every Thursday at 9:30 or 9:35, like today. We would love to hear from you. If you want to, please subscribe to us. And just quickly, Andrew, how do people reach you?
Yeah, give me a call. I do not want to talk politics, but give me a call. We'll talk housing, or we can just go for coffee and talk about other things. 250-360-6106. info@andrewplank.com is the email, and the website andrewplank.com has a number of resources as well.
Okay, Jen.
Well, I love a good respectful debate. I'm up for talking politics. You can reach me at 250-217-4925. I'm at jen@jenlow.ca, and my website is jenlow.ca.
Okay, and you can reach me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. My number is 250-744-0775. You can reach me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. My website's briarhillgroup.com, and don't forget to check us out at victoriarealestateshow.com, which is up and running again. And you can follow me on Instagram at realtyteacher_remax_Victoria or Briar Hill Group. All right, you guys have a great week. We will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.